Welcome to another new episode of Strange Encounters, where today we continue to take a deep dive into the bizarre and unexplained world of alien and UFO encounters. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps our channel to grow and continue to bring you new stories. You can send your unexplained and strange encounters about anything from aliens to ghosts to Sasquatch and all unexplained phenomena in between to verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. We love to hear from our listeners, so join us on the Strange Encounters subreddit at r/verystrangeencounters and leave your comments and suggestions in the comments section below. If you would like to contribute to Strange Encounters, but you don't have a story to send in, you can connect with us through buymeacoffee.com and become a member on our Patreon site. The links are in the description below the video. With all the housekeeping done, sit back, relax, and prepare to be amazed by the mysteries of the universe on this episode of Strange Encounters. Strange Hunting Story by Jackfish 2800. I was turkey hunting in May of 2020 in an area of Texas around Fort McCavitt, about 1.5 hours west of San Antonio. They forgot to tell me to bring a paper copy of my license, so I had to drive about an hour from the ranch to the nearest town that evening to get one at a grocery store, and it was dark on the way back. Other than the 200 or more deer all over the roads I had to dodge the entire time, I actually had to stop several times and honk at them, I had a very uneasy feeling I was being watched and thought I saw a strange light out of the corner of my eye once, but that's it. 2 cars passed me the entire time, so it's that remote. I was glad to be back at the camp. The next day, I went and hunted out of a big bush I kind of made into a blind and shot my bird and left that night. The following day, I got a very excited call from my guide saying something about an alien and a UFO. I thought I would call him back later. The cell service was beyond dismal. I texted him that evening and asked what was going on and what was the call about. I had left a decoy, so I thought that was it, but he responded by saying after I left, he and the other ranch hand went out around dusk checking cameras and feeders, etc., and when they came over the ridge where I was hunting, they saw a big light. So they walked over the little hill and saw a UFO a few hundred feet right over the exact spot I was hunting. And then, in a beam of light, they could see some type of creature moving around exactly in the area I was sitting. They said it was clearly looking through the blind, like it was looking for something. Then a beam of light came down from the craft, and it was gone, and the craft zipped off. I think they said it made almost no noise or just a slight hum. He wanted to know immediately what I knew about it. I have only met the guide this one time, and I never said anything about UFOs or anything paranormal. He was a 20-something-year-old former college baseball player who barely even drank beer. I asked him why the hell would he think I would know anything about it. He said it was looking all around exactly where I had been all day and was clearly looking for something, maybe me, and they were all scared to death now and thinking about quitting. He wanted to know if it would be coming back, etc. I had to confess to him that I had felt uneasy that previous night and that UFOs had been around me my whole life, and it was probably me that somehow triggered this and they would be fine. I kind of made that up, but I had to say something. I did in fact leave a call, knife, or something in the blind. But in truth, I have no abduction story, but I have seen UFOs over a dozen times, and I can always sense when I'm being watched by anything. He left that ranch for a better one, and we have stayed in touch, but basically about hunting stuff. But he says he is now a definite believer in UFOs. What do you guys think? My Experiences, Sightings, and Dreams by Abject Safety 3648. So, I became obsessed with other beings in the universe and consciousness around 2016, 2017. I began taking in everything I could, book-wise, documentaries, conferences, and anything related to it all. I started meditating and trying to personally change my vibrations and consciousness around 2019, after reading about it. It was very difficult to meditate without falling asleep. I started having intention on being able to not fall asleep, and it started working. I began to put intention into all my meditations. I wanted to start astral traveling, as I have always had very realistic lucid dreams. About 1 year ago, things began to get real. I began having sightings of stuff in the sky I could not explain. I was able to get a few sightings on camera. First, I saw 2 red lights that did not blink or flash. They were passing in front of my daughter and I around 11 p.m., and the lights were at the same level, with almost a void in between them. Then they just vanished right in front of us. Seemed to be a couple of miles away. The next sighting happened about 6 months later, and I saw an orange orb that seemed to be about 500 to 1,000 feet away from us. I called my wife to come take a look, and it was pretty far away by the time she got out. I grabbed my phone to see if it could be seen on video. I said, "Dang, I wish you saw that when it was closer." Then bam, another one appeared out of nowhere, like it popped into our dimension. You could see what looked like plasma in it. Then I started meditating with the intention for contact. A few weeks later, I went outside randomly to do some stargazing. I was looking towards the northwest and saw what looked like a satellite coming towards my house. I followed it, as I did when I always spot them. As it got closer, it started to look a bit blurry. It was late, around 1 to 2 a.m. As soon as it was nearly above me, I see 3 lights that were pretty faint, and it was in the shape of a perfect triangle. Nothing in between the 3 points of light. It almost seemed to be trying to cloak itself, as the lights shined continuously, but very faint. The lights also looked how light looks when you have water in your eyes. I was like, holy cow, that's a triangle. It disappeared into some clouds. The very next day, everything was normal. I went to bed around 11 p.m. and then immediately woke up at 4:05 a.m. with an extreme pain in my left foot, and I was like, WTF. Went to the restroom to see what was going on, but I could barely walk. I made it to the restroom, examined my foot, and saw nothing. A couple of things were off from this night. For the last 7 to 10 years, I never just sleep through the night. I wake up to switch sides all night, drink some water, or go to the restroom. This night, I don't remember falling asleep. I just remember laying down. When I woke up, I was in the exact position I was in when I laid down. When I woke up, I immediately thought, after I felt the pain in my foot, that I was taken. I've never had this thought in my entire life. The pain in my foot was so bad, I almost went to the ER. After about 3 to 4 days, the pain just vanished. What was strange was that when the pain was present, I woke up every night at 4:05 a.m. I have yet to sleep through the night like this one night. Since this, I have had 3 significant dreams. Number 1, spaceships were coming down and firing strange weapons towards us. Everyone was outside watching it. Number 2, I was in a city I've never been to, and a huge pyramid UFO came down and beamed me and my family up and dropped us back off, with time missing in the dream. And 3, I had a dream that showed me what I perceived as past lives I've lived in the past 400 to 500 years. Silver gray beings showed me that everything is always okay, by Fiona Harris. This happened many years ago, back in the mid-90s, about a year into my spiritual awakening. I had been meditating a fair bit and had just gotten my first degree in Reiki. I dreamt that every night while I was asleep, I was going aboard a craft to spend time with 2 ETs to receive training in spiritual matters. I knew that I wasn't the only one doing this. There were many others doing the same, and more than likely, most of us were unaware of the fact. These beings were male and made of silvery gray sparkles, almost a pewter color. They both had long beards and hooded robes. They looked human to me, very thin, very ancient, quite stern. I couldn't see the outside of the craft, but I could see inside the room we were standing in. There was a large window, and I could see the dark sky and many, many stars outside. This one night, the beings wanted to tell me how proud they were of me. I assume for taking the Reiki course, or maybe the meditation. They had a gift to give me. "We're giving you a pearl of wisdom," they told me, as they handed me what looked like a giant black pearl. It was the size of a cantaloupe and felt soft, pliable, alive. The second they handed it to me, I knew everything. Every single thing that could be known, past, present, future. Not only did I know everything, I could see that every single thing, every single person was connected, and that we were always okay. The feeling that I had, seeing what I was seeing, knowing what I was knowing, was a feeling of pure joy, safety, love, connection, ecstasy. Tears were pouring out of my eyes. In this moment of pure joy, I started to wake up. As I became more conscious, my brain was unable to hold on to or comprehend the massive amount of information I'd been given. In seconds, it was all gone. Intangible. I cried out to the beings not to let me forget, but it was too late. But the beings left me with a symbol to represent all the knowledge of connection. As I opened my eyes, instead of my dark bedroom, I could see the universe with trillions of stars. Floating in the middle of the universe was a three-dimensional geometric shape made up of sparkling silver lines. It was intricate, shifting, and morphing. I couldn't see the two gray beings anymore, just the geometric shape. However, the beings were there, close to me. They affirmed that no one should ever be afraid of anything. There should be no fear. My bedroom window was open. From somewhere outside, I could hear music. It sounded like an angelic space choir. I lay for what felt like hours, watching the morphing silver shape, listening to the beautiful music, crying. As the sun rose, the music faded away, as did the image. The feeling of connection and lack of fear stayed with me for weeks afterward, possibly months. I'm sure that people thought I was nuts. I was unable to stop telling people and friends, coworkers, loved ones, and strangers about my experience. I wanted every single human on the planet to feel the way that I felt. I saw the gray beings one more time about 2 years later. It was a brief visit and very magical, though nothing close to the first time. Of late, I started reaching out to them, asking to have a conscious experience with them, if they're still working with me. I'm hopeful that they will show up. My Dream by LowSmile7219. Someone recommended I post this dream here, so here you go. In this dream, I'm standing out on a garden patio, staring up at the stars with my auntie and my brother. Someone suggests that it would be a nice time for a smoke, and we all agree. We light up and carry on looking up at a beautiful, clear, starry night. We then notice that there are 3 stars that are moving together. My auntie and brother watch them whilst I watch another single star trailing a little bit further behind. Then I hear my auntie say, "What is that? What is that? What is that?" I turn away from the single star I was looking at to see what my aunt's talking about, and then I see it. One of the stars is now coming down to us. Its entire surface was flashing in an array of color. Its shape was that of a donut. I feel a tension between wanting to run away and wanting to stare on in curiosity of what I was witnessing. This UFO was now fairly close to the house. It stopped a moment before darting around and then settled at ground level, but did not land. It then proceeded to phase through the house as if the house wasn't even there. It was coming closer and closer to me, And then, just like with the house, it began to phase through me. I began to see the inside of the ship. Before my eyes was a kaleidoscope of colors, all rotating and shifting around a central light. The colors then began to settle until the central light became the light of an operating table, and on either side of me stood a pair of aliens. They looked exactly like your standard cliché aliens. I had a sense, either during the dream or once I woke up, that they appeared this way so that they could appear to me in a recognizable form. While laying down on the table, I thought to myself, should I sit up? And the answer came back, yes. I looked the alien to my left in the eyes and sat up on the table, though by doing so, I broke out of the dream and instead found myself sat up in bed. Encounters of the Fourth Kind by Sleepy Palooza. So, I'm here wondering if anyone else has had experiences like this. Back when I was 21, I experienced an encounter of the fourth kind, and another one last night. I'll start with the first story. I was getting ready for bed. Me and my ex had this joke that I'd been abducted by aliens my whole life because of certain experiences. I said out loud, well, if they're real, then show me. I slept through the night with no problem, got up to go to the bathroom, came back, and went to bed. I woke up almost instantly, it seemed like, except I was seeing my body from the ceiling of my room, and I saw my ex sleeping. The room was in black and white. The next thing I know, my door opened and these bright lights flooded the room. 2 grays walked in. One was over 6 feet tall. The other one was about 4 feet tall. Mind you, I'm still in astral projection phase here, and I'm looking right at these guys as I'm like a spirit orb or something. The big one pulls me toward it. I was like 5 inches from its face, staring into its black eyes. It showed me around the room, then the walls turned into a slick white metal and curved out. Everything went white, and the next thing I knew, I was back in bed. My ex had no recollection of the incident. Last night was simpler. I remember seeing the aliens' faces in my dreams. Then I woke up in sleep paralysis, looked next to my bed, and saw blue and orange lightning with a figure inside it, which then disappeared. Please let me know your experiences, or if any of you can relate. This is making life quite difficult. I'm 27 now. It's been 6 years since my first big experience. I'm a Tall Gray by Lopez Mulder. Hi, I would like to share this experience I've had. I was dreaming that I was in a room at night with my father-in-law Carlos, my wife, and my daughter. I was following this dream narrative without much awareness. Then, all of a sudden, Carlos held up my head and put this nose spray in me and said, "Be still. This is going to produce a transcendental experience for you to get in touch with your spirit guides." Then I got full awareness and went into this trance state. I had the sensation of being carried to a place where then somebody put me in a standing position, but I was floating in midair. Suddenly, everything went dark and this tunnel of stars appeared, and I was having a telepathic experience with someone. A female voice said, "Nothing has limits," then said that my name was Asha. Then I asked the voice if life after death was real, and if there were prisons for the soul, as I heard here on Earth. I don't know why I asked this in particular. The voice said, "Yes, my master." I then started to remember who I really was. I seemed to be integrating with that inner voice that we all have, and I was remembering my real self. But at the same time, I was not forgetting my current self. It was weird. It's like we don't lose ourselves, but we simply combine together. Suddenly, I heard a melody starting in my ears, a melody that I have heard before when I was young, and the voice said, "Very good, an excellent question, my lord," and then called me by the name Asha again. Then, as I was remembering more and more, I started to get nervous and asked why I was stuck in this body. The voice explained that it was due to the system of incarnations and started explaining more things, but I don't remember everything that well. I started to become more and more lucid and remember the real me, more and more lucid, and I regained my sight, and everything became like high definition, crystal clear and sharp, and full of color. As I was remembering who I really was, it felt like I was integrating all of who I am and started to fill with joy and relief. Then I looked at my body. It was different. I was very tall indeed, and thin. My hands were large with 4 fingers on each, 3 index fingers and a thumb. The palms were white, and the rest of the skin was a light gray with some pigment. I had a red robe, open in front, with gold embroidered themes. Then 2 female beings entered this white room where I was and came running, one of them hugging me, crying with joy, saying, "Asha, Asha, you are here." These beings were tall grays, but kind of hybrids and very similar to me, and they were beautiful. The gray woman who hugged me was thin and tall. Her face was beautiful with black eyes and bigger than ours, but not too much, and almond-shaped. I felt she was a hybrid, of the same skin color as me, a light gray. Her head was a little larger than ours, and she had white, braided hair. She had on a blue dress with gold silk-like embroidery, kind of like an Indian dress or ancient Greek robes. When she hugged me, I realized I knew her well, and she meant a lot to me. She just kept crying that she didn't want me to go, that I was going to forget about her and go back to that life. I held her head and said, "No, my love, never. I love you all." I felt that I was referring to all the lives and all the relationships I created in all of them. It's like I was each personality still, all adding to this being. Nothing was lost. I felt a great affection for her. The other gray was wearing a dress also of ancient Greek style. She was older and was just looking at the door, kind of controlling who was coming in, like they provoked this encounter without permission. I had the feeling that they shouldn't be here, that they came into my dream without permission to contact me. The other gray said, "We have to go." The other one saying, "No, no, no." I said to her fondly, "Don't worry, I'll be back soon. You know these lives happen in a flash. You know that." Then they disappeared, and I went back to the dream narrative, and I felt myself levitating, and my father-in-law said, "Okay, are you done yet?" Then I felt like somebody was carrying me to bed, and I woke up. I have this friend who does EVP, and I got confirmation that this experience was real, and they said they would visit me. After some weeks, I've had a UAP sighting for real. It was my first one. In the afternoon, a bright star was hovering a few meters from the ground and went slowly up and went in front of me to the right, passing me without any sound, like a drone or a plane or a helicopter. What do you guys think? Have you ever had a similar experience? Have you ever encountered these beings? Thanks, and don't think I'm on an ego trip or something. I'm very humble, and I don't think of myself as an Uber or something. Thank you for reading. In this next segment, we're looking at some of the most classic and well-known cases of encounters with the strange, including sightings of unidentified flying objects, alien abductions, ghost stories, cryptid encounters, and other unexplained phenomena. So, sit back and prepare to be taken on a journey through some of the most captivating and mysterious stories of the strange and unknown. In this episode, we take a look at the Lubbock Lights UFO incident of 1951. Famous encounters. The Lubbock Lights UFO incident of 1951. The Lubbock Lights were an unusual formation of lights seen over the city of Lubbock, Texas in August and September of 1951. The Lubbock Lights incident received national publicity in the United States as a UFO sighting, and was investigated by the U.S. Air Force. According to Edward James Ruppelt, a United States Air Force officer from Project Blue Book, officially all the sightings, except the UFO that was picked up on radar, are unknowns. Ruppelt wrote that the first sighting was reported by 3 professors from Texas Technical College, now Texas Tech University, located in Lubbock, on August 25, 1951, at around 9 p.m. According to Ruppelt, they were sitting in the backyard of one of the professors' homes when they observed a total of 20 to 30 lights, as bright as stars, but larger in size, flying overhead. Ruppelt wrote that the professors immediately ruled out meteors as a possible cause for the sightings, and as they discussed their sighting, a second, similar group of lights flew overhead. Ruppelt said the names of the 3 professors were A.G. Oberg, chemical engineer, W.L. Ducker, a department head and petroleum engineer, and W.I. Robinson, a geologist who reported their sighting to the local newspaper, the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. According to UFO author Jerome Clark, 3 women in Lubbock reported that they had observed peculiar flashing lights in the sky on the same night as the professor's sightings, as well as Karl Heminger, a professor of German at Texas Tech. Clark writes that on September 5, 1951, all 3 men, along with E. Richard Heinemann, a mathematics professor, and 1 other professor from Texas Tech, were sitting in Robinson's front yard when the lights flew overhead. According to one of the professors, named Grayson Mead, the lights appeared to be about the size of a dinner plate, and they were greenish-blue, slightly fluorescent in color. They were smaller than the full moon at the horizon. There were about a dozen to 15 of these lights. They were absolutely circular. It gave all of us an extremely eerie feeling. Mead said that the lights could not have been birds, but he also stated that they went over so fast that we wished we could have had a better look. Clark wrote that the professors observed one formation of lights flying above a thin cloud at about 2,000 feet, which he says allowed them to calculate that the lights were traveling over 600 miles per hour. On the evening of October 30th, 1951, Carl Hart Jr., a freshman at Texas Tech, observed a group of 18 to 20 white lights in a V formation flying overhead. Hart took a 35mm Kodak camera and walked to the backyard of his parents' home to see if the lights would return. 2 more lights passed overhead, and Hart captured 5 photos before they disappeared. After having the photos developed, Hart took them to the offices of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, where the newspaper's editor, J. Harris, told Hart that the photos would be purchased for $10 and published in the paper, but that he would run him, meaning Hart, out of town if the photos were fake. The photos were soon reprinted in newspapers around the nation and in Life magazine. The physics laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio analyzed the Hart photographs. After an extensive analysis and investigation of the photos, Edward J. Ruppelt, the supervisor of the Air Force's Project Blue Book, released a written statement to the press that the Hart photos were never proven to be a hoax, but neither were they proven to be genuine. The Texas Tech professors claimed that the photos did not represent what they had observed because their object had flown in a U rather than a V formation. In late September 1951, Ruppelt learned about the Lubbock Lights and investigated them as part of Project Blue Book. Ruppelt traveled to Lubbock and interviewed the professors, Carl Hart, and others who claimed to have witnessed the lights. Ruppelt's conclusion at the time was that the professors had seen a type of bird called a plover. The city of Lubbock had installed new vapor streetlights in 1951, and Ruppelt believed migrating plovers were reflecting the new streetlights. Witnesses who supported this assertion included T.E. Snyder, a local farmer who on August 31, 1951, had observed birds flying over a drive-in movie theater. The birds' undersides were reflected in the light. Another pair of witnesses, Joe Bryant and his wife, on August 25th, observed groups of lights flying overhead. When a third group of lights passed overhead, they began to circle the Bryant's home and were identified by sight and sound as plovers. J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer and one of Project Blue Book's scientific consultants, later contacted one of the professors and learned that the professor claimed the lights were plovers. J.C. Cross, the head of Texas Tech's biology department, and a game warden interviewed by Ruppelt both claimed the sightings could not have been birds. Meade, who had observed the lights, also disputed the plover explanation. These objects were too large for any bird. I have had enough experience hunting, and I don't know of any bird that could go this fast we would not be able to hear. To have gone as fast as this, to be birds, they would have to have been exceedingly low to disappear quite so quickly. William Hams, chief photographer for the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, took several nighttime photos of birds flying over Lubbock streetlights and could not duplicate Hart's photos. Regarding the lights, Ruppelt later wrote, "They were not birds, refracted light, or spaceships. They were positively identified as a very commonplace and easily explainable natural phenomenon. It is very unfortunate that I can't divulge exactly the way the answer was found, because it is an interesting story of how a scientist set up complete instrumentation to track down the lights and how he spent several months testing theory after theory until he finally hit upon the answer. Telling the story would lead to his identity, and in exchange for his story, I promised the man complete anonymity. But he fully convinced me that he had the answer, and after having heard hundreds of explanations of UFOs, I don't convince easily." While investigating the Lubbock Lights, Ruppelt also learned that several people in and around Lubbock claimed to have seen a flying wing moving over the city. Among the witnesses was the wife of Ducker, who reported that in August 1951, she had observed a huge, soundless flying wing pass over her house. Ruppelt knew that the U.S. Air Force did possess a flying wing jet bomber, and he felt that at least some of the sightings had been caused by the bomber, although he could not explain why, according to the witnesses, the wing made no sound as it flew overhead. Over the years, the Lubbock Lights UFO incident has remained a topic of interest and debate among UFO enthusiasts. Some people believe that the lights were evidence of extraterrestrial activity, while others believe that they were caused by some other kind of unknown phenomenon. The case remains unsolved and continues to intrigue people around the world. Thanks for watching another episode of Strange Encounters. We hope you enjoyed hearing about the mysterious and unexplained stories that we shared today. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll never miss out on any of our future episodes, and you'll help us continue to bring you more intriguing stories and encounters. We love to hear from our viewers, so send your own experiences with the unknown to our email at verystrangeencounters@gmail.com. You can also join us on Reddit at r/verystrangeencounters. We look forward to adding your story to one of our videos. If you enjoyed the video and would like to support us, join our Patreon page or go to buymeacoffee.com, both of which are linked in the video description and in the pinned comment below. Your support can really help this channel continue to bring you new and amazing stories. Thank you again for tuning into Strange Encounters. We appreciate the support of everyone who listens to the channel. Until next time, take care and stay safe. We appreciate your support.